Julie, thank you for having me back 10 years later. I first met you and talked to you when you were running Hedgehog Press. Now
10 years ago. Can't believe it.
No. Tell me how things have changed, aside from the business itself is now the Hedge. Catch me up.
Okay, I think last time we saw each other, I was in a tiny little building on Columbia Avenue, and I moved then to a spot on Broadway, which I just recently transitioned out of into this space here. So lots of moving of heavy equipment, name changes. I think I changed the name when I moved to Broadway just because I was kind of expanding some things that I did as well. So it was kind of a good opportunity to change things up a little bit. The business is the same in some aspects and completely different in other ways too.
Yeah,
So
let's talk about that expansion. So not only did the space expand, but the business expanded. I was so taken with your prints the first time we met. But now there's a ton. Tell me what all you're doing these days.
There's a lot more, still lots of workshops too. I just usually do them on site as per that person. So I do a lot through Acres Land Trust, still through Fort Wayne Community Schools, which is really like, love that.
Yes.
And so I take my presses still and teach about kind of the history of printing and fun things that we can do with that in a more modern aspect. And now I have a laser cutter machine. I have a CNC machine. So it's really cool to pair these very new technological pieces with these lovely presses that they're still my heart and soul 100%. Yes. So we've got 1800s technology and then our like new millennia technology.
Okay, is this the press that was on Columbia Avenue?
Yep.
Okay.
Her name's Ginger. She's the showstopper. And she's from 1897. So she is an oldie. And I just used her yesterday. I was printing some wedding invitations for someone. So still gets used a lot. I've got a couple new to me presses since the last time we saw each other, and my collection keeps growing.
So how did you sort of start to acquire these new skills, or maybe they weren't new skills to you, but the CNC machine and all of that, when did those things sort of become part of the Hedge?
They kind of organically start forming. I try to be really fluid in business in general, especially a creative business. They're kind of come through ways of adapting and coming up with new processes, new offerings, things that I know clients or customers are wanting. So I'm always kind of trying to keep my eye out there and get my fingers in all different sorts of things. I love learning too, so that's always a big aspect of all the new pieces.
That was going to be my question. Is it intimidating to get into these new things, or do you dive right in? And
I have always been of the mindset that I'm probably going to fail right off the bat. So I just dive right in, and if it doesn't work, that's kind of how I thought it was going to end up. And really just very self-taught in certain ways that I sometimes I get a little frustrated, but for the most part, I'm pretty good about just jumping in and figuring it out. So I think I would have been a really good mechanic in a previous life, or something like that. I've always been I love tinkering and I love kind of wrestling with the machines, whether they're old or new. So I just love the act of printing. I think that will always have my heart. I love carving, which I've got some blocks out that we can look at too. So I've always loved that act of carving. I still love that. I love doing the murals too, painting, whether it's at a private residence or outdoor somewhere downtown. I like that people can watch the way that something transforms or the way that something comes into fruition and see kind of the process, and then it gives them a little more of an appreciation for what it is. So I really love doing that. But in general, with the business as a whole, just being able to hear someone's idea and helping make that a reality. I think that's something I feel very humbled that people trust me.
Yeah.
And I feel very honored that people allow me into their homes or onto their wedding day, super special events, and really just trust me to be able to make their dream kind of a reality. So I just love that.
As Fort Wayne has sort of grown and evolved over the years, have you felt that? Have you felt a bigger demand for your work?
I think people are just more open-minded about incorporating fun, creative things into their everyday life. So with all of the cool murals, with the Art This Way push, and just so many fun, vibrant things downtown, I think it just has opened people up to not be so conservative with their design. Here, we're still a little, I'm always kind of fighting that a little bit, but I do think that people, now that they see it and they live with color and art and this vibrancy of the city growing, I feel like it has kind of opened them up to want that more and more.
I was reading about you, and you have been featured in so many national publications, and like, you're a big deal. Would you would you have anticipated that 10 years ago?
No, never. I was just glad 10 years ago to be able to have one main press and have the shop pay for itself to where I can just use the press and have my friends use it. And, just to have that, I was just so glad to have an outlet for my work, and the way that it's kind of moved and grown, and the ebb and the flow, I really couldn't have imagined it would be here. I wanted it to be, but
sure,
I try to be optimistic, but I'm also kind of like realistic in the same way. Like I said, I just kind of think everything's not going to work out. And so when it does, I'm like, okay, yes.
What would you tell the Julie that I met then? Any advice?
Yeah, I think just to, again, 10 years ago, we were in a completely different place with social media. Mm-hmm. Social media to me can be such a detriment to creatives, especially. Mm-hmm. We all know how it can affect all of us, sometimes negatively. And creatives, we start to get this imposter syndrome, and you're looking around and you're seeing all of these people succeeding, feeling like you're the one that's not succeeding, and you see all of this. So I think going into that 10 years ago, I would just try to tell myself, or any creative, just to stay true and authentic to who you are and let that push through. Be true to yourself and your vision for your work. Don't try to be trendy or kind of go, just be true to yourself.
Do you think that you stuck to that advice, or did you really need to tell younger Julie that?
I feel like, again, the ebb and the flow, I feel like now maybe it comes with age too, where you're like, I don't care, I'm doing what I want, and I'm gonna be myself. But as a younger person, and again, when you're kind of seeing things that other people are doing, and you think, well, what should I be doing? Maybe I should be doing things differently. So I definitely would have needed to hear that from my future self. So stay true to what you're doing.
What is the biggest lesson you've learned along the way? I know that you would tell younger Julie to stay true to herself, but are there any other lessons that have really kind of changed the way you operate?
Yeah, I think everybody says this, but it's so true. Just trust your gut. And that's really hard to do because we're always questioning ourselves. So trusting your gut, whether that is in business, knowing, okay, it's been now almost 15 years that I've had a business, like when things dip and they go down, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna be able to figure it out, pull it back up again. That's a really hard one to remind myself that I can do. But also with clients and people you interact with, like, trust your gut. If somebody feels off, I've had a couple bad instances, and I just have to remind myself, I'm in this for spreading light and love and positivity, and getting to do something that I love every day is a really special gift, and I'm not in it for anything else. So just trust your gut.
As the business has grown, and it certainly has, does that business side take some of the joy out of the creating?
It can, yeah. And I've definitely felt that over the last, even just the 10 years that we've had between our visits. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really happy to be where I'm at right now, and what I'm doing. I'm kind of allowing myself a little more flexibility to work on some personal work again, which a couple of my properties that I still have that tiny little building on Columbia, mm-hmm. and I have my Broadway property and I'm renting them out, and that's just giving me a little bit of flexibility to work on my work again, which is feeling really good.
Yeah. What has art taught you about yourself?
Ooh, everything. I mean, art is my life. I have wanted to be an artist since I was 5 and never knew that that could be a thing until as an adult. Even as an adult, I'm still like, I can't believe that. It's like, am I an artist? I don't know. Like, sometimes I don't feel like it, but it has taught me everything. It's taught me how to look at the world in a way that I need to get through it. It helps me process things that are going on around me. It is my therapy, it is my best friend, it is my everything. My life is all based around art, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, what a beautiful answer, and what a beautiful way to live. Julie, I loved our interview 10 years ago. I loved this one. So exciting to watch things, really flourish for someone who brings such beauty into the world. So thank you for chatting with me then, and thanks for having me back.
Here's to 10 more years.
Yes, I'll see you in 10.
10.